Watch me transform this tired thrift shop find into this Art Deco inspired coffee tray. Here's how I did it. What you'll need is 1 cup of instant coffee, 1/8 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil, and 3 tablespoons of hot water. Combine all 3 ingredients in a bowl. Stir until you have a nice smooth paste. Set your paste aside, disassemble your tray, and get sanding. I'm using a 120 grit sandpaper here to remove the lacquer off the wood. Once you're done sanding, it's time to apply the coffee stain. You can use a paintbrush to apply the coffee stain, but I've opted to use a sponge. It's just personal preference. When applying the coffee stain, make sure that you get the coffee in all the crevices so that you have a nice, smooth, even finish. Guys, working with coffee stain is very messy and very sticky. So you can wear gloves if you want, but it's not going to stain your fingers, but it's something to keep in mind. Now I left this first layer on for 5 minutes, and I just wanted to see how deep of a stain I would get, and here it is. The coffee has allowed the wood grain to pop a bit. Very impressive. I'm using a clean sponge here to wipe it off as well. I had to change from the sponge to a cloth because the coffee was just really sticky and not coming off. So you have to give your wood a good wipe down. Now here is the result of just the first layer left on for 5 minutes. Now this is the result of a second layer left on for 10 minutes. And the wood grain is popping here. Here is a third layer, and it was left on for 1 hour. And the wood grain is even more noticeable. It is popping, guys. It looks really, really good. Very pleased and very impressed. It has that rustic antique look, which I love. Here's a comparison. Now I decided to give the wood a 4th stain, and I left it on for 24 hours. So the coffee was dry on the wood and I needed to give it a nice wipe down. I had to use some elbow grease here to get it off. But if you notice, the wood grain is popping, guys. It is so noticeable, and the wood itself is now a honey color, which is exactly what I was going for. It is gorgeous. I was very pleased with the results. So remember, give the wood a good wipe down. Don't be afraid, because you don't want sticky handles when you're using your tray, and you don't want coffee stained fingers when you're using the tray. But just give it a nice wipe down. If you are not happy with the color, I would suggest adding another layer of the coffee stain, leaving it on for 24 hours, and then wiping it down again. But here I was really pleased with the results. Oh, very nice. Now I did use warm water to wipe down the wood this time. I was using cold before. Here's the finished article there. Now the next step is to apply a sealant, which I decided to use coconut oil, and I'm giving the coconut oil and rubbing it into the wood, massaging the wood, giving it a nice rub down. You can use olive oil and you can use beeswax. I just had coconut oil to hand. Now once you've rubbed in the oil, it's time to put the wood aside, and now you're going to work on the wallpaper. So I'm running the water in my sink, and I'm going to apply my wallpaper. The reason why I'm doing this is to soften the paper so that it's easy to work with when you're putting the wallpaper on the tray base. That's my Mod Podge there. Now I'm applying the Mod Podge to the tray base. Leave it for about 5 minutes for it to get a little bit tacky. Then apply your damp wallpaper, so it shouldn't be sopping wet. Smooth out the air bubbles, and if you have a roller to hand, you can roll out the air bubbles. Now I left this to dry for 5 hours before I applied a top layer of Mod Podge to the wallpaper. This works as a protectant, so that when you're using your coffee tray, let's say you have tea spills or coffee spills, it's not going to damage the wallpaper. It's just a protective layer. And I have left this on for 5 hours, and when it was fairly dried, I applied a second layer, and then I left it for 24 hours to dry. It is a generous coating of the Mod Podge. This is the results after 5 hours of drying, and here is the tray after 24 hours. Now I am going to be assembling the tray, and voila, here you have it, the Art Deco inspired coffee tray. Thank you for tuning into my channel. There'll be many more tutorials to come. Please subscribe, and once again, thanks. Have a good day.